You did it! You are at the final module, Module 3, bringing it back to your setting of the Science of Reading Professional Learning for Educators Supporting Literacy Across Contexts. During this module, we will connect everything you've learned from Module 1 and Module 2 to Nebraska's Multi-Tiered System of Support, or MTSS, framework, and turn awareness into one actionable next step. Nebraska's Multi-Tiered System of Support, or NEMTSS, is a framework schools use to organize instruction and support so every student has the opportunity to succeed. Think of this in 3 tiers, like a pyramid. Tier 1 is high-quality, evidence-based instruction for every student every day. It's the wide base of the pyramid because every student receives it, and it's where schools have the greatest opportunity to improve outcomes. When Tier 1 instruction is strong and consistent, more students are successful without needing additional intervention. Tier 2 provides targeted small group support for students who need more than Tier 1 alone. Tier 3 provides intensive, individualized support for students with the most significant needs. Strong literacy outcomes begin with strong Tier 1 instruction. You may not provide Tier 1 reading instruction or reading intervention, but you are an important part of every student's Tier 1 experience. When you intentionally reinforce vocabulary, build background knowledge, encourage students to explain their thinking, or create opportunities for meaningful language, you're building the foundation that supports literacy across the school day. Another important part of NEMTSS is collaboration. No single educator sees the whole child. Classroom teachers, specialists, interventionists, administrators, and families each interact with students in different settings, and each perspective contributes to a more complete understanding of a student's strengths and needs. That's what creates school-wide culture of literacy. Literacy isn't confined to one part of a student's day. Instead, it becomes part of the way a school works together when educators intentionally build language and knowledge, share observations, and collaborate to support students. These collective efforts create consistent, predictable experiences for students and extend literacy throughout the entire day. The 5 questions on the screen are designed to support collaborative conversations. Think of these questions as conversation starters you can use whenever you're working with others to support a student. You might use them during a PLC meeting, an MTSS meeting, a data meeting, a conversation with a classroom teacher or interventionist or title teacher, or even after noticing a pattern while working with a student in your own setting. What strengths or concerns are you noticing? What goals is the student currently working toward? What strategies have already been tried? What patterns are you noticing across different settings? What additional support might help? When you bring thoughtful observations from your own setting to those conversations, you're doing more than supporting an individual student. You're contributing to a school-wide culture of literacy and helping students become skilled readers. We've reached the final activity of this course, and this is your opportunity to bring everything together into one actionable plan. On your note taker, you have a copy of this action plan. The action plan is intended to be a living document that you can revisit throughout the school year as you reflect on your practice, collaborate with colleagues, or participate in future professional learning. Over the next 20 minutes, use the 4 prompts to develop your personal literacy action plan. First, identify one specific strategy you will intentionally incorporate into your instruction. Be as specific as you can. It might be a vocabulary routine, a word part strategy, an intentional language extension, or a way to build students' background knowledge before introducing new learning. Second, identify exactly where you will use that strategy. Name the unit or the standards and lessons or time frame. The more specific your plan, the more likely it is to become part of your regular practice. Third, think about how you will know the strategy is making a difference. What will you look or listen for? What evidence will tell you that students are engaging more deeply with language, building knowledge, or communicating their thinking more effectively? Finally, consider who you can share your plan with or who might support your implementation. That could be another classroom teacher, another specialist, an instructional coach, a school leader, or your MTSS team. You are not creating a long list of changes. Choose a meaningful step that feels realistic and achievable. Small intentional actions implemented consistently have a lasting impact on students' literacy development. When you've completed your action plan, be sure to save your copy for your own records. This action plan can serve as a resource during coaching conversations, PLC discussions, professional learning, or annual goal setting. Go ahead and pause the video now, access your literacy action plan, and spend the next 20 minutes completing it. When you're finished, return to Module 3 to continue with the closing slides. Before we close, there are a few resources that can support your work and continued learning. Nebraska Reads is the online statewide hub for evidence-based reading instruction resources and updates. This is a great first stop for questions or more information about the science of reading. The Foundational Literacy Instructional Routines are classroom-ready routines accompanied by a free webinar series you can access at your own pace. Remember, we discussed 2 of those routines, one for vocabulary and one for morphology. Check this guide out for more ideas. The NDE Dyslexia Guide provides further guidance specifically on identifying and supporting students who show characteristics of dyslexia. An equally important part of supporting literacy is partnering with families. Research consistently shows that when families are engaged in their child's literacy development, students experience stronger reading outcomes, greater motivation, and increased confidence. As a specialist, you can support that partnership by sharing literacy resources during conferences, family events, newsletters, or other school communications. Even a brief recommendation to explore the Nebraska Reads family literacy resources, linked on this slide, or family literacy resources available for your own school or district, can help families continue building language and literacy at home. Small conversations and shared resources can have a lasting impact by strengthening the connection between home and school. As we wrap up, we'd like to leave you with one final resource, the Supporting Students with Reading Conversation Guide for Educators Across Contexts. Earlier in this module, we talked about the importance of collaboration within any MTSS and the 5 questions that guide meaningful conversations about students. This conversation guide builds on those same ideas by providing a practical resource you can use whenever you're partnering with classroom teachers, instructional coaches, school leaders, your school literacy team, or other support staff. All of these resources are Nebraska-specific resources developed for Nebraska educators. Bookmark the ones that feel most relevant to where you are right now. This quick reference, Common Literacy Terms, is designed to be a resource you can return to as you plan instruction and collaborate with colleagues. It provides simple language definitions, examples, and ideas for connecting each concept or skill to your content area. Keep it handy and reference this throughout the school year. As we close, I want to leave you with a thought from educator and researcher Doug Fisher. Every student deserves a great teacher, not by chance, but by design. That's what this course has been about, making sure that literacy support doesn't happen by accident, doesn't depend on whether a student happens to have a reading teacher who notices, but is built by design into every corner of the school day, including yours. What you do in your gym, the art room, music room, library, or computer lab matters for reading. Not because you're teaching phonics during PE, but because every time you teach a word deliberately, every time you build background knowledge before a unit, every time you reach for a more specific academic language when talking with a student, you are adding one more repetition to the reading network in that student's brain. Thank you for taking this time. Thank you for the work you do. You are part of a statewide effort to make sure every student in Nebraska becomes a skilled, confident reader by design, not by chance.